Good morning, everyone. It's 11 o'clock and we'll get started. There may be one or two other people joining along the way, but my name's Eric Story from the Edmonton Pride Seniors group. It's March 31st, 2022, and thank you all for attending our weekly Aging with Pride discussion group for 2SL LGBTQ plus seniors and allies. Thank you to our partners at SAGE and the Pride Center of Edmonton also. Before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to acknowledge that we are located on Treaty 6 territory and respect the histories, languages, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all First Peoples of Canada, whose presence continues to enrich our lives. Two housekeeping items. First, I must let you know that this session will be recorded for future use on our YouTube channel. If you don't wish your image to be recorded, please close your video feed. Secondly, I'd like to remind you of the code of conduct outlined on your Zoom invitation and underscore a couple of points. Please respect the speaker by remaining muted during the talk. We'll unmute you for the Q&A. Be mindful of our time limitations and keep your questions and comments as brief as possible so that everyone can have a chance to participate. Everyone who wishes will be given an opportunity to ask a question before individuals who have already spoken will be recognized. And finally, please respect the confidentiality of personal information. And now, with great pleasure, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Blair McKinnon. Blair has been a member of the Edmonton Pride Seniors group since 2017. He's passionate about creating safe, friendly, and inclusive housing for our 2SL LGBTQ plus seniors community and our allies. Blair has worked tirelessly on many EPSG housing groups to make this dream of our own housing a reality. As Blair said, I don't want any of our 2SL LGBTQ plus seniors ever to have to face going back into the closet when they enter seniors housing. In addition, he's co-editor along with Ron Byers of our newly launched EPSG newsletter. So if you're not already a subscriber, you definitely need to subscribe to that. Blair has over 30 years experience with the provincial government and has managed a wide variety of innovative primary health projects with Alberta's primary care networks, physicians, nurses, and other healthcare providers. His career focused on improving Alberta's health care system for all Albertans. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from St. Francis Xavier University in Nova Scotia. He and his husband, Guy, of 25 years, can't wait to start traveling the world again if COVID ever subscribes. And I think that's a popular opinion for everybody. Blair, welcome, and please go ahead.
Okay, great. I see a number of new faces today. The face that says Blair McKinnon, that's my husband, Guy. He sometimes pretends he's me. Just first of all, a shout out to Ron here. Wave your hand, Ron. He has done a tremendous job on our second issue of the Edmonton Pride Seniors Group newsletter. There's 187 people subscribed to it so far, and if you're not, make sure you go onto our website and subscribe, and you'll be kept up to date on all the things that we're doing. So great. So first of all, I'm going to give a little overview of the housing project before I go into the updates, because some of you are new here, new faces I've not seen before, so you may not be familiar with what we've been doing over the past several years. First of all, one thing is we're now Edmonton Pride Seniors Group Society. So we became incorporated January 10th, 2022. And that's quite a big deal. We are an entity, a real actual entity. And so when you're applying for grants or to the federal government, to the city, or any other organizations, you have to be an actual entity. You can't just be what we've been, sort of a group of like-minded individuals. So now we are a society, and we were really thrilled about that. So it means we really do exist on paper, according to CRA, who of course is pretty important across the country. Anyway, so I'm going to give an overview. I'll just get my share my screen here. So I'm going to give just a review of our housing project, what we've been doing over the last several years. Then I'll give a couple of updates on our progress to date since I last talked to you back in October of 2021, which seems like a lifetime ago. It was the third or fourth wave of COVID, and we've had so many snowstorms and 30 below zero. So it seems like decades ago. Then I'm going to make it an interactive session today. So you're going to be listening. I want some participation from everybody. 3 questions. We're going to be asking you, what does community mean to you? Why is it important to you? And what personally does community mean to you? And also, why is this housing important to you? Or maybe it's important to somebody you know in the community. And the third thing is, I'd like to hear you talk about what kind of services, activities, and programs that you would like to see at this housing. As we indicated right from day one, it's not just going to be housing for the residents, but it'll also be, we want to have this center for our community, so that we have set up, and the design of the housing will be, so there will be space for programs and services and activities that all members of the community can go to there. That'll be a hub. So keep those in mind, and I'll let you know when we're going to ask you about your feedback on that. So just to give an overview of where we've been, our goal was more than just housing, but that's our first one, was to build a mixed income, safe, inclusive housing for LGBTQ2S plus seniors, their friends and allies. And what does mixed income mean? Well, mixed income means that some of the rents in this housing would be below market rate, specifically 80% below the market rate of whatever neighborhood you happen to be in. The other rents would be at or close to the market value. And the reason we did this, several reasons, I guess. First of all, to qualify for any funding from CMHC or the city or any other housing organizations, you have to have a mixed income, because there's, as you're probably all aware, there's a terrible shortage of housing across the country. And also from our survey of over 210 members of our community, they indicated that rents and financial issues are quite, they have issues around them. So not everyone can afford what market rates are. So that's why we're having mixed income. That we would also be providing programming for residents and the visitors, so the whole community. That would become the gathering space for our broader community. So what would it look like? It'd be a low rise this is what we're proposing. In actual, it may be slightly different from this, but right now we're proposing a low rise building, 4 to 6 stories, 50 units, approximately cost of $25 million. I know that sounds an astounding amount, and it is, but we're going to get there. It requires 3 average lots, so that's about 20,000 square feet. So it's much bigger than, say, the property. If you have a house, it's much bigger than that property. It would be 3 lots side by side, and that would have general space for other amenities and services. And I'll just get into a bit of that. It would have 50 units. There'd be a mix of 1 to 2 bedrooms and 1 bedroom plus den. And all of this is based on what the respondents to our survey, indicated was their preferences. It would have full kitchen and individual laundry, a dining room and commercial kitchen. So for those who don't want to cook meals in their own apartment, you would have a dining room where you can have group meals. A multi-purpose room. So this is very important. And when people in the survey indicated that was one of their priorities for community events, both the residents and the community members. They would have obviously a lobby, sitting area, and cafe, because social events and becoming a community together in the building is very, very important to everybody. And then offices for home care staff. And it would be universal design. And what does universal design mean? It's a term used in seniors housing that works for everyone, so that it provides, it makes it accessible for those who have disabilities. It's designed such that the doorways are larger than you would have in your own house, the doorways to the bathroom and so on, so that if you're in a wheelchair, you can maneuver around. But it's also important that it's the really good architects today are now designing so that it doesn't look like, say, an assisted living kind of facility. It looks very beautiful, but it is practical so that it gives access to everyone. And that's very important. So going to give an overview of what progress to date have we come along. One of our key partners is Garneau United Assisted Living Place. And right now we're doing an MOU. An MOU is basically, it's a memorandum of understanding between two groups. It talks about how we will collaborate together, how we'll work together, how we will make decisions and move together forward on this project. Now, it's not like a binding contract. As you get further along, when you get into legal issues around funding, mortgages and so on, then you move to another level, which is a joint venture. But right now we're at the MOU state, and it's not signed yet, but we're anticipating it will be fairly soon. So what do the two partners bring to the table? That's Edmonton Pride Seniors Group, us, and Garneau United. Well, we, as I just indicated, we're now a federally incorporated association of volunteers. We're about 18 members. We started in 2014. It was really to improve the quality of life of seniors and our allies in our community. And we realized from research and from stories from our community that first of all, I guess a lot of us didn't even think we'd ever be seniors. You know, I guess we never really realized, just like everybody else, we're going to get older. And I think then all of a sudden we had issues that maybe other members of the general community don't have, like moving into a seniors housing. Well, just moving into a seniors housing, if you're out and have been out for years, well, would they accept you? So that became one of our focuses. We realized that we have some very special needs, and one of them is in housing. So our group, a number of them are here today, have a wealth of experience, social work, in government, housing. Ron, like right there, one of our IT experts, and he has been tremendous help to our group. We come from all different walks of life. We did a housing feasibility study, and if you've not seen it, go to our website, Edmonton Pride Seniors, epsg.ca, and that report gives an overview of everything, what the housing will look like, how we got to where we were, what it's going to cost, what the rents would be, all those details. So we've had many, many years of hard work to make this dream come true. So that's the thing that we bring to the table. Now, Garneau, they're a federally incorporated company back in 1998. They have charitable status, and they operate the Ashburn. Here it is. Here's a picture of the Ashburn. It's an assisted living facility that has 110 units. It's located just in the university area, just kind of across the street from U of A off of 112. Very beautiful facility. And I guess the critical piece and why they're such an important partner to us is they're an affirming facility. And that means they had to do a lot of work to get to that status. That means they welcome people regardless of their age, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identification, faith, whatever. I've been over there a number of times. Lori Winder, who is the executive director, is one of our members of our Edmonton Pride Seniors group. And if you walk into the lobby, the first thing you see is the Pride flag. They also have a very good collection of LGBTQ plus books in their library, some of which have been donated by myself and other members of our group. And they even had a booth at the last Edmonton Pride Week Festival. And I think, correct me, Ron, was that in 2019? It seems so long ago. Maybe it was 18. 18, okay. Anyway, they had a booth at that festival. They also had their dog there too. And that's one of the first things you notice when you come into the Ashburn is they have their resident dog, which is very, very important. In fact, when we think back to the survey, having pets in our housing was critical. People basically, if you don't allow pets, they wouldn't go there. So and the Ashburn allows pets in there. So this is our vision, that we have a social and political culture where seniors from our community can live out of the closet, that they can live lives free from stigma, fear, bullying, and discrimination. And all of you probably experienced many types of fear and bullying through the years. And a coming out process, probably for a number of you, it was for myself, was a big issue. And we grew up in the mid-20th century, not the mid-20s, mid-20th century, where things weren't always so good. And so that's the vision we want to have, is not that. We want to be who we are. So it includes, our mandate includes education and awareness. So that involves giving presentations to seniors facilities across Edmonton, so that they're sensitive to the issues of their residents who come from our community. Health promotion, recreation, and obviously a very important part of our vision is independent housing and aging in place. Aging in place, that's one of the descriptions of the housing we're proposing. Aging in place really means that you have supports in place so that you don't have to move as you age and you get to a point where maybe you have some mobility problems and so on, but you don't have to leave what is your home. And so that's why when we have proposing a housing that has universal design, so that if you get to the point where you need a walker or a wheelchair, you can still stay in your home. So, and that's a trend in a lot of housing now, that aging in place is a very important part of how places are designed. So what is Garneau United, Assisted Living, Garneau United bring to the table? Well, they've gone through the whole process. Back in 2000, they built the Ashburn 110 unit facility. So they had a vision. They had to get land. And in fact, they had to get land. They had to buy some land that was next door to them, and they had to go through a negotiation process. I remember them telling us that it was a parking lot before, and the government wouldn't give it for, well, we won't go on about the government, but they had to pay a market value for this property to have enough space to build their building. They've successfully managed their facility for the last 22 years. They have developed a very good relationship with Alberta Health Services. And they also have charitable status, which is very important for us, because obviously with as I indicated, the price of this housing will be 25 million. We need to do fundraising, and they have a very good governance structure. Just tell you a couple of things about the Ashburn. They have their own bus and taxi service. They have a library, as I indicated. They have licensed practical nurses on site. It's a pet-friendly building. In fact, the first thing you see when you walk in, besides the pride flag, is a dog. And they have developed a very unique way of delivering home care services. They've developed an agreement with AHS. So they pooled all the funding that individual people get for home care. So instead of having home care come in just for you, they pulled it together so that they have their own staff on site. So you have continuity and you have control over the people who give services to you. And also, which is really good because they're an affirming group, they've trained all of their staff. So you don't have people coming in that had never met a trans person or never met a gay man or a lesbian. So that's very important. And people have told us that that's a great fear they have when they get healthcare. Will the healthcare provider be cognizant and recognizing their specific needs? So this is what their vision is, which is very similar to ours too, that they welcome people regardless of their age and race, sexual orientation, gender identification, faith, and so on, that all people should age with dignity, and that it should feel like a home, and that is their home, that it's comfortable, they're surrounded by people who care about them. And also because not everyone gets home care, for example, in the Ashburn, so they have, you know, their own private apartments, and we know that's very, very important for people. Any survey of seniors always show that they want to keep their independence as long as possible, and that's why people want to stay in their own home as long as possible. And the governor wants to feel part of a vibrant, inclusive community. So we're really lucky we have them as one of our key partners. So what's the next update? Finding land is our #1 task. Right now, just give you an update. We're working with the city to secure a site on Roland Road. You may recall from our previous presentation, we were looking at land in Oliver, which I think is going to be renamed pretty soon. We were not successful. Oliver is a very dense area. The land prices are extremely high, and we could not find it. Anyway, so the city of Edmonton has a process to provide land to not-for-profit organizations, and it could be below market or at minimal cost. There is a process for applying for that land, and we would have to go once they move this land into what's called a not-for-profit housing group, land group. We would have to apply along with any other groups and to compete for this. So we're really hopeful that we do get this land. And here it is. I'll just move my mouse. So this is, if you know, Roland Road goes down into Riverdale. Riverdale's just down below here. So here's the lots. These are smaller lots, but it's like, this is in red, is the land that we're looking at. And it's quite a nice area. You probably don't even know that this 101st Avenue exists. It's quite a nice little street with trees. It's very quiet. At the very end over here is Arts Hab. It's a cooperative housing group that's been there for a number of years, and we have actually talked to them as we've been working on ours. It's a very nice building. And then there's apartment buildings here, and views of the below here is Riverdale. So here it is again, this is the map. So where's my mouse? Here it is. So this is the land site. This is Riverdale down here. So it's right at the top of the hill. So if you had apartments on this side or this side, you had beautiful views of the river valley, and then you can see the river down below. So we're very hopeful about getting this land. And we found from research from other organizations that worked to develop housing for LGBTQ seniors in Amsterdam is one example, and a number in the United States. The single most important thing they found was once they had an actual address, like here, sorry, my mouse is moving, right here, once they had an address, it became a reality, and it really moved the project forward fast. And land is not only important for building it, but it's also equity for financing and loans and mortgages. So when you have land, you have something that's worth value, and that helps you when you're applying to CMHC, Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation. They're the group that has the responsibility for the overall federal government's housing program, which is billions of dollars to increase the housing across the country, especially affordable housing. So that's one of the groups we'll be working with. So having an address is critical. There's still a lot of steps yet. After getting the land, you're going to apply to CMHC. They have some funding called seed funding that enables you to, because you really need money to start fundraising, you need money to hire architects, you need funding to do some of the, there's all kinds of engineering components. You have to do an engineering survey of the site, architects, finance issues, other strategic partners, land permits, zones. There's a huge amount of work yet before you get to the construction and development stage. So lots of work to do yet. So what does community, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to ask you what community means to you. I'm just going to give you some examples. What does community mean? We did a number of focus groups over the years with members of our community talking about this housing, and we asked them, what would it mean to you and why is it important? And this is a quote from one of our members who said, this building would mean I could move, live in a community with like-minded individuals where they could thrive and where we would not have to go back into the closet. And they just want to be who they are, so that they don't want to be inauthentic just to survive. Some of the other, and then we, after those focus groups last summer, several of our members interviewed a number of people in depth, a whole series of questions to ask them about what this housing would mean to them, what fears they have, what are their needs, what they would like it to look like. And here's what some of them said, like, moving into this type of community will mean that I feel like I belong here, that I'm part of the community, that I feel this sense of belonging. And actually, some of the people they were interviewed were seniors, of course, but some of them are living in other seniors housing, some are at home. And some of them, it's where they are now. They said, I don't feel part of the community. I don't feel like that it's my home. And so it's quite sad. And so they are very eager to move into something like this. They said moving in a building where it'd be like-minded people, where you could be safe and secure. And safe and secure is a very important thing for people. And if you are in a place where you don't feel safe, that people are going to be talking about you, or even worse, maybe violence towards you, that is a terrible feeling, and you would not be feeling safe. Once again, many times these are different people saying this. I felt it'd be a place where I'd feel comfortable and safe, where there'd be mutual respect, and where I can be who I am and be respected for it. So open it up to everybody. Maybe we can, I'll stop sharing the screen. So of the 22 people here, what does community mean to you? Michael.
Yes, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation. I want to just make a real quick comment to re-emphasize how important, and Blair has indicated with the Garno, which we're looking at as part of that they are the only, as far as we know, they're the only affirming senior residents in the country, kind of thing. That, and I think sometimes we forget how many things we do well in Edmonton. And their board, which we deal with a bit, have been very clear that they walk the talk. They don't have that up there because it's a nice thing to have, that they actually insist that it happen, and that too. We're really quite unique and fortunate to have an organization like that. In terms of what a community means, Blair, I wonder if you have any thoughts about how or whether you would see how what people in this residence when it's built with the rest of the LGBTQ community, the other groups, et cetera, in the community. How do you see that as being part of the broader gay lesbian community?
Yeah, I think I mean, people that would live in this residence, I think would have a critical role in bringing people together. Even, first of all, just having a place where events can happen, I think is pretty critical. And a number of us that are seniors, the place to go often when we were in our 20s and 30s was the bar. And as you're aware, there's far less gay and lesbian bars now. And younger people say, well, the reason there isn't is because we have friends, straight friends, trans friends, whatever, we can go anywhere we want. So there isn't often a place for events to happen. And I think for our community, having a place where you could go down to the main floor and have some event where you have a potluck supper and you meet people from all over the city from your community would be critical and very, very important. We had a project a number of years ago where we brought together, intergenerational was called, where we worked with young people and seniors, and we had sessions where they talked with each other, and it was really interesting to see. I interviewed some of the young kids, and we found out that we had so much in common, way more in common than we realized. That we had a lot of some of the same fears, and even though it's better today than it was when we were coming out, they still had some of the same fears, from their family was a big issue. And so I think this would be wonderful that different groups could meet in this housing to bring about this sense of community, because even our community is different. There's many different groups within our community, and I think this could be a catalyst for joining them together in a safe place and a beautiful place. So,
thanks.
Yeah. Anyone else? What does community mean to you? Why is it important to you? Joan, I'm sure you have something to say.
Yes, I do, Blair. I was just actually typing it, but I'll.
Oh,
it's
okay.
faster. No worries, no worries.
Yeah.
So just to, the summary is awesome, Blair. Every time you do that, it's just so helpful for me because, I've been sitting with this group for quite some time now. And after a while, I just kind of lose track of where we're actually at. So that always is so helpful for me. And it looks amazing. And I love everything that, we're proposing. It's a place I would definitely want to be. And all I could add is perhaps, maybe a little bit of quality control at the very end, or I don't know when, I guess when it's being built, but things like soundproofing and air quality, those kind of things. Like I've lived in a lot of apartments. So, when you hear people's toilets flushing and, you walk down that halls and you smell other people's cooking, that's just always such a turn off. So, if you could think Zen, so a quiet, peaceful, Buddhist-like facility would be the ultimate. So I love the Roland Road area, the trees. That's going to be such a nice soundproofing if we actually get to build there. And the more trees, the better. And inside the building, again, if we could have some kind of quality control for soundproofing and whatnot, so that it's just so peaceful, and if you want to go into your room and put on your headphones and play death metal, great, but which I do sometimes, but so just to continue on that, incensey bird soundtrack kind of concept, that's the only thing I would add to all of those wonderful points that we've established so far.
Great, thanks very much, Joan. Yes, I mean, about quality control, the consultant we worked with was Communitas, and they are very particular about the quality of the projects that they've developed. And so when we did the costing for the building, it took into account soundproofing and all those issues, and that it would also, I should have mentioned too, that a green building is very, very critical and important, and any of the buildings that would qualify for any of the funding from CMHC would have to be green, that you use a lot less energy than before. And so that was a very important component of it. Somebody just asked if we can email the slides, and so I'll get Kim after to send a copy of the slides out to everybody. Somebody indicated, as a professional, this is another question, as a professional in the seniors housing industry, I would like to know how I can contribute to the initiative. I'm not quite sure. Maybe if whoever the person was that asked it, we would probably like to speak to you to see what do you know in terms of the senior housing industry that we should be aware of. Perhaps there's things that you know about the industry that could really help us. We're all amateurs in developing this project. Obviously, when we hire an architect and consultants and so on to actually build it, we'll have professionals doing it. But that would be a very critical component. And also you probably have some learnings from the housing industry about what works and what doesn't work. And that would be very useful for us to know also. Sometimes when you go into some seniors places, it has that look, some of the old ones, the look of, you come in the door and you see this desk and everything. Well, that maybe doesn't look like housing. So maybe I would love to hear from you about design things that that make it look like your home. So I don't know if that answers your question, but okay. And is that Robert? Who can I contact? Well, you could start contacting me. I'll give you my email here down on the screen. Okay, and while I'm typing, maybe somebody else could pose a question or a comment.
If I could, around community, I think, we need to look at seniors and also near seniors. And I think some of us actually might become seniors at some point in our future. But I think the whole idea of seniors is, within our community, there tends to be, certain grouping of youth and then middle-aged and older folks. And I think that the real advantage of trying to create community around this building is we all need to learn how to retire. We all, there's a lot of things that we need to prepare for. And there's almost like a mentorship program of some of the older folks, maybe chatting with somebody who's thinking of retiring in 5 years and sharing some of the lessons that they've learned. So that's, for me, what I think about, one of the things that I think we can do as a community in terms of serving a community and not, just providing service to the community as seniors and helping others.
Mm-hmm. Larry.
Now, one of the things that is really important, I think, is that, yes, there's an overarching LGBTQ community, but maybe the time has come when we need to start talking about communities in the plural and recognizing the different needs of the different subgroups in the community, because we make assumptions. I think sometimes we don't even recognize that we make the assumptions that we make. For example, we haven't heard anything about language and so on, which for some seniors is a critical thing. But the point that I really want to make, and why I think things like Aging with Pride and our efforts are so important, is that I see the proposed housing as really as a standard setting. It really sets the example of what everything should be like, and indeed what everything must be like. But there is no way that we could possibly house all of the GLBT seniors who will need this housing. So it's equally important for us to work. And this is where I think people like Robert can be very helpful in, and indeed is being very helpful in ensuring that every facility meets the standards that are acceptable in terms of in terms of respecting diversity and equity and so on. I don't know how many people in this group live in a seniors residence. I do, and I must say, I've been fortunate, I guess, because I found the community very welcoming to someone who is openly gay, and we need to build on that and find allies. And I suppose that's part of my, that's really the point that I wanted to make. Everyone in this industry needs to ultimately be converted to our ally, or if they can't be converted to being allies, we need to know that and deal accordingly with them. Thanks, Blair.
Great. Thank you for that, Larry. Yeah, we obviously, 50 units is only going to be a small proportion of our population. So I guess several things. We would like this to be an example of future. This should be the first of many, but there's also many gay and lesbian seniors that already live in housing already. And so it would be useful that we reach out to those groups.
Indeed.
Yeah, to make sure that where they're living is safe. And that's some of the work that you and Eric and so on are doing to make, all seniors places should have this code that, that we respect sexual orientation of people. That's just, it's a human right. And it's obviously in legislation too, but it doesn't mean it always happens in practice. And so, and also, I guess, an important part of work, I'm thinking of some activities we could have that we bring seniors in, not from our community to our place, to show them like we're no different than you guys are, and that this would be a wonderful place to have a potluck where people from 4 or 5 different places, senior facilities, come into this place and they say, oh my God, this is a very nice place. And I don't know what I was afraid of, but I shouldn't have been. And I think there'll be great learning from that. Let's see, is there another? Was that another question that you had? Oh, Joan, yeah. On the road, yes. Well, the building that we're proposing that community has costed out had underground parking. Yes, that was critical, both for cars and for housing. I think it had a few surface ones too, but certainly underground parking was a critical component. So yes.
So there would be no parking lot like around the building. I'm just thinking of like when visitors come and like, is there an area, or would it completely take up would the building take up the lots?
I don't think, looking at the size of all those lots, I think it's it's about 6 lots. I don't think the floor plan would take up the whole
Okay.
area. So there probably would be some surface. I know that when actually we said 20,000 square feet for the building, but it's actually about 18,000 square feet for the physical building. So Lynn Hanley, who was our consultant with Communitas, put in space for a surface parking also too.
That's good, because that's always nice when there's accessible parking for visitors or workers or, whatever.
Yes, exactly. Like the Ashburn has parking at the back there. When I go visit, there's visitor parking, and I just go to the front desk and get a pass, and it's free.
Yes.
Over U of A, if you've ever gone over there, there's nowhere to park. Like it's pretty awful. Yeah. Larry, I think, are you?
Karen Matthews has or had a question.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, it's not so much a question as a comment on the potential of the Roland Road site. And with reference to community, I've lived in both Riverdale and I currently live in Macaulay. And I think it's a great prospect if it's possible, because both of those communities, which neighbor it, are very tolerant and welcoming and lovely places to live. I also like the proximity to the LRT. I think that will be a big plus in terms of access to other parts of the city and downtown if you have mobility issues, that kind of thing. So I'm quite excited about that. My only concern about that spot is the integrity of the hill. If you look at the Riverdale history book, you'll find that the hill collapsed in the early, about 100 years ago, and it was quite substantial. And so, there's already units built on it, and I just wonder about the integrity of that hill. So I'd really want to have that checked out quite thoroughly. Historically, it was a coal mining area, and it's lots of shifting and movement in that area. So, but just the proximity of all the housing co-ops and art space, all these other places that would be natural allies for a project like this would be really cool. So
thank you very much for that, Karen. You're right. Actually, one of the city actually has a plan for redeveloping that area, which is called the quarters. I think there's going to be a new LRT station quite near. Not yet. And we could be what part of that whole new redevelopment. And if you've ever looked at American cities, who are the first people who go into an area that nobody wants to live in before and it becomes trendy in shops? Gay and lesbians. That happens every time. So, and you're right, Riverdale is a wonderful community. I mean, I cycle, and when I work downtown, I used to walk through there every day. It's like this little gem of being in the countryside, 5 minutes from downtown. It's really beautiful. And yes, we would have to have, I don't know, Michael, if you know any more details on we would have to have engineering report for the stability of that land. I know there was coal mines around some of the parts of the hillside there.
So yes, maybe Blair, if I just
Sure.
the land, because the city has already surveyed and made it available for sale a couple of years ago, has had an initial work that would indicate stability. However, in someone actually coming forward, they would do a full scale assessment before, and anybody who would be interested in buying the land will insist that that be done before they actually would buy it. So yeah, the stability will be part of looking at that. Certainly the buildings that are currently there have not had any difficulty, and some of them have been there for some years now, but at the same time that would all have to be done, and that would be part of the whole process.
The Arts Hub building, I think, is higher, quite a bit higher than what we're proposing, and well, it's still there, so it hasn't fallen off the cliff. So Roy had a question: will the entire building be owner occupied, or will the rental units as well? Actually, Roy, they're all rental units. So all 50 units are rental. There's no ownership. And that's what people indicate was their preference was rental, not ownership. Warren had said, I expect a huge demand for this building. Will there be a way of ensuring priority for a suite is given to queer folk versus the general population? Yes, we obviously have to work out a process for that to happen. I'm sure what you just said too is true, that some people were wondering whether we could fill the building. Well, we have, from the survey, we already have 60 people that said they want to move in the next several years. So it's filled now. So, but we would have to have a process for priority for queer folk versus general population. We want to have, everybody didn't want it to be a so-called gay ghetto. They wanted to have some of their straight friends there too. So obviously, and you can't, I think Michael's legislation says you can't just totally be gay and lesbian. So we would have to have a process for that. And I talked to some other groups, one in Amsterdam, about how do they do it. And they had, they have ownership, so it's a little different. And they had an interview process where they interviewed people to see whether we would get along and would be appropriate for that building. And you have to make sure if someone's coming in not from our community, you know, lay it out straight about what type of building this is, and are you comfortable with that? I know most of my straight friends would, my sister wants to move in there, she said, so most of my straight friends would be wonderful allies. So maybe we can move on, unless you don't have any more comments on that issue. We could move on to what kind of programs and services would you like to have in this place? And I just want to share my screen again. A number of years ago, we worked with a group, as I said, an intergenerational group with seniors and young people. And part of that exercise, we asked them what kind of activities would they want to have together with youth. So both of them were giving these ideas, and this is what they came up with, which is pretty exciting. I mean, these are a lot of fun things. So movie nights, poetry reading, potlucks, walking and biking in the river valley. And that's one of the selling points of Roland Road, is literally you're about 5 minutes from the cycling and hiking trails in the valley. And I know in our neighborhood where Guy and I live, it's an older neighborhood, we have tons of seniors walking dogs every day, even when it was 35 below zero. So walking is a critical piece. So barbecues in Emily Murphy and Laurier Park, potlucks, camping. These are some of the things that talent night they came up with. So I'll stop that, or maybe I'll, okay, just hang on. So what would you like to see in terms of two things, I guess, fun things in this place, and then what kind of services in relation to programs and activities or home care would you like to see in this place?
I think just as part of that, Roy had a comment that any opportunities for gardening for those that reside in the building. And also it would be nice to have a piano within the building. Those are two comments from Roy.
Okay, thanks, Roy. I play piano, Roy. So yes, actually, when we asked people in the survey, gardening and an outdoor area was very important to people. A lot of it, I'm a gardener, as my husband Guy knows, I have a passion. And I was in Home Depot yesterday and I said, oh my God, they already have the bulbs in the store. So, so that would be a critical piece. And if you look at some of the seniors places around the city now, they have community gardens in the land around their buildings. So that's a great idea. Michael.
Yes, I would see, which is a kind of the other end, because it's apartments essentially, is that there would be a resident advisory committee of some sort that would be made up of people living there, who would be meeting on a regular basis about the ensuring that things were done in the way that were successful, and if there were noise or other things that needed to be dealt with, or a garden and how that could be done. So I really think that that's one of the things we should be seriously thinking about as well internally, that there would be an advisory committee.
Okay, just one more quick comment, and I believe we're at the 5-minute mark. So anything else before we take over? Is it Eric or Larry is going to?
I'll just read quickly three more comments from the chat. Karen said a common space for gathering, cooking, eating would be cool. Absolutely. Yeah. Diabetic foot care, a library, and a book club. So we've made note of all of those suggestions. So thank you very much.
Yes. Foot care actually is a program that they have at the Ashburn. So that would be a given. Yeah.
It's very important.
Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, thank you everyone for attending. It's been, you know, and particularly to Blair. I know Blair has put so much work into this along with the other members of the committee. So thank you very much. We would like to make sure that everybody, again, another plug for our newsletter, make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. And Ron had put it in at the top of the chat. And next week, Liz Messiah and Michael Fair will be talking to us about building community. And both of them, of course, have done an awful lot in the community to build the community that we currently enjoy. Blair, do you have any other final comments?
If you want to send any more feedback to us, if you go to our website, you can sign up for a newsletter, but there's also a place where you can give comments. So if something comes up that you didn't think about today, you can put it there. And the other thing is make sure we're on, even though we're seniors, we're on social media. So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook a lot. So if you're on Facebook, you know, follow us there and you'll see what updates are coming along. And really do, I urge you to subscribe to our newsletter. And really feedback from you is important for us to hear, because you are part of our community. You will, some of the people on the screen right here today will be some of our future residents. And I'm really happy to see some new names there that I hadn't seen before. So thank you very much for coming today. It's great.
Okay, last item before we close, and we always try to close promptly at noon. So Ron, thank you for your comment, because we are now starting to put the videos of these sessions up on our YouTube channel. So please watch for the links. Will be in the newsletter, and there will be a newsletter coming out, I think, in the next couple of weeks. So please watch a couple of days. Sorry. Yes. They're busier than I thought they were.
Oh, listen, yes, they are.
Yeah. So yes, watch for the newsletter. The videos will be up on that. Again, thank you everybody for attending today. Some wonderful conversations and suggestions. We've made a note of them. So hopefully we will not lose any of those suggestions and improve them as we go. That's it for today.
Just one quick comment. Ken, people had asked for the slides, so I will send the slides to Kim, who can send them out to everyone who is registered today. Okay,
super.
Great.
Super.
Thanks for that.
We are at noon. So with that, thank you everybody for attending, and hopefully everybody will tune in next week for next week's presentation.
Thank you so much, Blair. Thank you all.